Okay.
Glasses or no glasses?
Anything is up to you. Freelance. So, my name is Wesahana Pearson. I'm recording for Black Asia Magazine right now. And I'm here, I'm in Taipei. I'm talking to a very dynamic young woman who I've met also here in Taipei. And take it away. Can you first, for the site, please tell us your name?
Yeah, my name is Taekwon Wyndham. I go by Toy. Toy is what I've always kind of gone by growing up. I am from Dallas, Texas, and went to school in Colorado for undergrad. I am here in Taipei pursuing my master's degree. I have one more semester, so I'm pretty excited. It's a 2-year program, so that's kind of the start of why I came to Taiwan in particular, but I've also lived in mainland China, so background.
Yeah, so as far as you coming from Dallas, Texas, try and give me a picture of where you grew up so I can visualize what it was like for you growing up there.
Oh, where did I grow up? So I grew up most of my life in DeSoto, which is a southern suburb.
Yeah, that's famous.
Yeah. It's a southern suburb of Dallas. I lived there about 12 years before moving to a couple other suburbs further north, outside of Dallas, and went to DeSoto school through 9th grade, and then I transferred to a predominantly white private school called Green Hill School. Very elite college preparatory school in Dallas. My childhood was great. I have awesome parents. They love. I have a twin sister, and I have a lot of siblings.
Your twin,
yeah. So my twin and I, we were raised with all the opportunities, being involved in church, band, piano lessons, martial arts, and then track took over our lives in high school, where we dedicated most of our time to track and field. And in Dallas is very diverse in many different ways in terms of the types of people, the types of neighborhoods, but yet still quite segregated based on socioeconomic status mostly. But then that's also reflected in the races of the people that's in those neighborhoods. So there's rich neighborhoods, and a lot of times they will be predominantly white. So it's just reflected with the race too. But then there are some neighborhoods that are pretty diverse in terms of socioeconomic status and race. But like one particular neighborhood, Highland Park, completely all white.
Yeah.
Just because of the price of the housing. And
so do you think that black people can't afford to live in those houses, or it's just like
a
lot of times
it's the culture
banks
there.
won't give you, maybe sometimes you wouldn't want to live there.
It's the culture of Highland Park because it's not very it's exclusive, not very welcoming. I believe I was in high school when it was in the newspaper that a black family moved to Highland Park, and they were only there for a few years because it was
horrible. It
was not welcoming towards that family. People judging them, people stereotyping them. And then, I mean, like, we hear the terms, driving while black. A lot of black people get pulled over for no reason in that neighborhood. If you're driving a nice car, or even not a nice car, just driving while black in that particular neighborhood. But then there's other neighborhoods like South Lake, that's toward a little bit more west, more diverse, but still wealthy, just about as wealthy as Highland Park, but a different type of community in that area. And then you have Frisco, Plano, other neighborhoods that are very well off, but more diverse than Highland Park. And then you have some of the other suburbs that are further out, way more diverse, lower housing prices. It's more affordable. But yeah, growing up in DeSoto.
DeSoto is famous because it's one of the most affluent communities in America, and it's also predominantly black, from what I understand.
And where are you from?
New York, Queens.
Okay, and that's what is being perceived of DeSoto now.
The documentary I saw, I don't know if I'm right or wrong. Am I
what
saying that accurately? I forgot what it was when I was watching, but it specifically put a spotlight on DeSoto, Texas.
Okay.
As a very affluent and also predominantly black suburb of the United States.
There's part of it that is pretty affluent. Yes, and I have some friends who, like, I've known since I was a kid, and though they lived in big mansions and things like that in a gated area of DeSoto, but not all of DeSoto was like that. Like, my family, we had a big house, we were pretty well off, but we weren't in that gated community. Slightly different, but DeSoto has gone through some ups and downs. Like, during my high school years, that school, like the school district and everything, kind of took a downhill turn. And then throughout college, some of the younger generation, like in my generation, like Warren C. and Carl Sherman, like they took positions in DeSoto government and the council and things like that, and turning it around to where it's much better now. But yeah, like a lot of people may know DeSoto more so for sports and also creating like a college academy, kind of like a magnet track, magnet school track for the school. So they definitely have done some great things there. But personally, for me, my childhood, I would say is quite diverse. Because when I was a kid, like elementary school years, went to school in like South Dallas in the hood, and then middle school through 9th grade went to DeSoto, and then went to private school 10th through 12th.
Okay.
And so, very diverse, being around various different types of groups of people, and that's what my parents wanted for us, to be able to still be around my own kind, but then have opportunities and be able to balance between different worlds.
Right.
Because you have to, as a Black American.
Yeah. Okay. Very vitally important.
Yeah. And then, like, through college, like high school, I started learning Chinese, and then through college, got one of my degrees in it. And
you have a degree in Chinese?
Yes.
In like speaking, or like what is it?
It included, so the degree is just Chinese, but it includes language, history, culture, art, geography. Like, you get to pick your elective courses. So I've taken courses, everything from modern Chinese language to classical Chinese language, geography of China, ancient Chinese history to modern history, Chinese lit, where I learned about different Chinese, like modern Chinese writers, but also ancient Chinese writers and things like that. So it encompasses all of Chinese culture in a way.
Okay.
Except for like a class on Chinese food, but I learned a lot about that through my own personal experiences.
Okay, so have you ever done any work as a translator or anything like that?
I have not done a lot of work in translating, but my current job with Taiwan News, I do some translations from Chinese articles and creating English articles as part of my job. Okay. But all my articles are written in English.
Right. Okay, yeah, all right. So tell me more about that, which you're now in a minute. Still talking a little bit more about your background, but moving farther ahead. What was it, I mean, maybe it was the degree you took, but was that the thing that prompted you to go abroad in the first place? Okay, tell me how that happened.
Okay, so my grandfather's Chinese.
Really?
That is the first thing, yeah. And so that is what prompted me to start learning Chinese when I got to Green Hill. Because when we transferred, we found out like, oh, there's Chinese as a foreign language. So in 11th grade, my sister and I, we continued to take our Spanish to get our 3-year language credit, and then added Chinese as another language. So we doubled up for a year on languages. And then when I was in college, learned about different study abroad programs and wanted to study abroad because at Green Hill, we had a China trip. Like, our Chinese teacher would take a group of about 10 to 15 students over to China for like a 3-week or so trip in the summer. And I always wanted to do that, but couldn't do it because I was always running track in the summer.
So you didn't go, you never went to China with the teacher?
No, I didn't get to go.
Okay.
So when I learned about the study abroad programs in college, I was like, yes, I have to go. Like, yes. And I mean, of course I got credits. And my first trip to China was in 2010.
Okay.
So that was summer between junior and senior year. And decided to do language program in Beijing. And That was like a 2-month program. I get credit and did a homestay. It was just awesome.
Yeah.
And once I started traveling, I kind of never stopped. I love
being outside, being on the road, being in new
yeah,
places.
I love traveling, exploring new cities.
I feel you. I got that traveling bug also. Very bad.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We've learned so much about you just from. It's great. So moving on from there, you said China, Taiwan. You've been to these two places, which are very different from each other.
They are quite different, surprisingly. I didn't know what I was getting myself into quite really, because like I learned these two places are very different, but I didn't know how much they were different until I got here and tried to adjust. So very different.
So where else have you traveled to since you've been traveling?
Well, of course Canada, that's like next door to the US. And I've only really traveled pretty much Asia. So in Asia, I've been to China, Taiwan. I will consider Hong Kong a separate entity of itself.
Yeah, okay.
Different culture, different type
dialect,
of different people. Yeah,
infrastructure for the city.
Yes, so
culture.
I will keep that separate in terms of places I've traveled. Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore,
right? Okay.
The Philippines, and Australia.
Okay, when did you go to Australia?
I went to Australia this year, the beginning of April this year. So that was cool.
Okay, all right. So when you came to, the first place you lived was in China, right?
Yes.
How long did you live there?
Well, I did 2 summers of language programs in Beijing, and then I lived in Southwest China for a year.
And which province was that?
Guizhou province.
Guizhou.
It's one of the poorest provinces of China, and it's in the mountains. It's located in the southwest region of China. So you have Yunnan province, which is where Kunming is, and then it's the province just to the east of that. Yeah.
Okay. Was it, when you moved to China, did you find that you had to make a really big adjustment? If you compared your lifestyle in Dallas and your lifestyle in Guizhou.
Yes.
All right. Can you expound upon that?
Very different. And like living in Guizhou province is very different than living in Beijing or one of the bigger cities too. So living in Guizhou, beautiful scenery. It's in the mountains, and it's a small city for China because like Beijing, Shanghai has over 15 million. Liupanshui, which is the name of the city, only has about 3 million people, and I was one of 9 foreigners. So culturally, that's very different, and just seeing what you can live off of in terms of amenities, money, and it's way more rural than the big cities. Yeah. Like you could drive 10, 15 minutes outside the city. I mean, you're literally in the middle of the mountains, just in the mountains. And so like I stayed in one of the dorm rooms. They combined 2 dorm rooms to make an apartment for each foreign teacher. And so when I first got there, and these are brand new buildings, so when I first got there, I did not have running water. They were still getting that turned on. They had to still install my my water heater to have hot water showers, and it in the middle of September it was already pretty chilly because we're in the mountains. It's much cooler than the rest of the country. So it was already fairly chilly. So the water was very cold taking showers. So that was one reason why I got a gym membership. Besides working out, I got a gym membership.
Take hot showers.
Just to take hot showers. So I would go work out and then take a really hot shower. But if I didn't go to the gym, I would have to take a cold shower in my apartment. The heating system is different. Like back home we have HVAC, or like a central air conditioning system and heating system. So it runs throughout the whole building. In China, even here, heating and cooling systems do not run through the whole building. They have to install like a
Each room.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In each individual room, so your hallways, your restrooms are quite high. Differences. So yeah. So I realized some of the things I took for granted back home. It's like, oh my god, like you figure out how to survive on what you need, not what's comfortable.
Okay.
And then I love the food. I've always loved Chinese food, so the food was not much of an adjustment. But where I lived, spicy food is like everywhere.
Yeah.
Everyone talks about Sichuan spices and spicy food. No, Guizhou might have it beat in terms of like they use a dried chili pepper powder. They make it fresh. Like when you're driving through the mountains, you see a lot of stands selling the dried chili peppers, and everyone in the city uses it, put it on all their food, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't deal with it. But luckily, I could find food that was not as spicy. But when I couldn't, I just had to eat it, and then have milk ready. And then living there, being one of 9 foreigners, and out of the 9, there were 3 of us who were black. Definitely got stared at a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine. Wait, even in Beijing, in Beijing, people try to turn it off, especially after the Olympics.
Yeah.
But what year was that when you were
2000.
there?
Oh well, Olympics was 2008. I was in Guizhou 2012, 2013.
It was better than it had been like if you had been there like 2005, 2006 when I was there. I think it got.
No, in Guizhou it was not much better.
People were just like.
Yeah, people would literally be like stare at me or do double takes, like black person. People would take pictures with their phones of me, just like this, or even try to be sneaky.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
And I'm like,
you look like
I see
in the
you.
mirror, and you're behind. It's like.
Yeah, like I could see you. A lot of people, especially kids, like yelling, "Oh, white boy, foreigner, African, yeah." Like screaming it down the street, and I'm like, I know I'm here. Hi, like nice to meet you too.
Yeah. And it's like I can understand that this is a huge surprise for you, but then they're like, if someone is that loud about this surprise, it's like, what kind of thinking does someone have when they're that vocal about a surprise? That you have like, there's a certain empathy factor that's not there.
It's not necessarily about empathy. It's just
like if someone did that to you, like you just, it seems like that's just not normal.
Well, okay, so having been to Beijing before that, I had already known, like, okay, some people may stare a little bit, and some people have certain reactions to you being black and like in China, but being in Guizhou is to an extreme.
Yeah. And you were there for how long?
About a year. It was like to an extreme to where.
Did you get used to it? Or
no,
like,
never got used to it. It was just I learned that it's all about the intentions, because you can easily take it as being racist or but it wasn't that. It was just lack of exposure, pure curiosity, especially kids for sure. Were like, oh my gosh, and then like me with my curly hair, like my hair is completely different than theirs. So like the children that I taught there, I was their first foreign teacher. And so that was definitely an experience for me and for them. And so, and like my students love to ask me questions. And then like the local people, the Chinese people, like outside of my school, like when they realize that I speak Chinese, then they'll ask me a million questions. But for the people, like most people just assume I don't speak Chinese, so they will just look at me. They just be like, oh my gosh. And then if I hear them saying something about me, usually positive, but like when I hear something and then if I respond, they'll be like, oh my god, like wait. Yeah, and then they start asking me a million questions. So, I mean, most of the time, it really has been curiosity on their part, because they have never seen a black person in the flesh.
It's always just on TV, like they're like a walking M&M or something like that. Like they do
something. And then it's like, and if they do see black people on TV, it's usually, I mean, back then, President Obama was always on TV. NBA players like LeBron James, Michael Jordan.
Yeah. Did you ever have people saying like it's impossible for you to be a Black American and probably from Africa? I found that in China. People say like, I don't see how you can be American and a Black person.
No, I haven't had someone say that to me, but for most of them to assume when they ask me where I'm from, they'll be like, oh, where are you from? Africa? And I'm like, no. And then I explain, and they'll be like, oh, like the shocked look on their face, and the fact that they assume Africa from the jump. That's where they believe all Black people are from. And that's just out of lack of exposure and
the information that they've been fed.
Yeah, the information that they've been fed.
Other information that they haven't.
And in terms of America, yeah, they assume all Americans are pretty much white people because maybe the white people that they have seen or what they see on TV, Hollywood movies, politics, pretty much everyone's white. So what America puts out there, white.
Okay.
So.
All right, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So, moving a little bit ahead, what do you do here now? Can you go into detail about
what you're working
on
do here?
Yeah.
Okay, so finishing up my MBA. It's a 2-year master's program focused on human resources development, international human resources, and that's the main reason why I came here, and then also to continue practicing and working on my Chinese.
Okay.
And then I also do some part-time work, working for Taiwan News as a writer / editor, and then I tutor students in English, math, SAT type of stuff. I'm going to start training people again. Like back in the States, I trained and coached for track and field, indoor rock climbing, various different sports. So now I've decided like, okay, I have some time and I have the space to be able to start training people in terms of physical fitness, any type, many different forms, but I'm just gonna say general fitness for now. But,
okay. All right, let me look and see how we're doing with this. Yeah, it's over there.
Okay.
All right, so now let's get to kind of like the meat and potatoes of the interview.
Yes.
Between China and here, you pretty much said everything. Is there anything else? How do you feel as a Black person, especially as a Black woman living here? Between these two different societies, I would imagine like
so many differences.
Between China was probably one experience, and then Taiwan would be a different experience. Can you go into that any further? Can you like more?
Okay, so I've had way more experience living and traveling around mainland China.
Yeah.
I've been to about 45 cities around China.
Wow. Okay.
But lived in Liupanshui, stayed in Beijing 2 summers. But so I've had way more experience and time to explore Chinese culture and be around so many different types of Chinese people. A lot of people think, oh, there's only one type of Chinese. No, there's like the majority, which is Han Chinese, but then you have I think it's like 50 plus minority groups in China.
Okay.
And I got to like travel a lot of those remote cities. So being in China, it's very different because we are seen as different.
Okay.
And that's just being a foreigner living in another country, because Chinese people see it as, okay, either you're Chinese or you're not, kind of thing. So a lot of things that you may see or feel or interact is because you're a foreigner first, and then being Black just puts a cherry on top, like, because they haven't seen a lot of us. They haven't interacted with a lot of us, whether we're Black American, Black French, Black British, or from different,
Africa, Caribbean,
or Papua New Guinea, like any one of a darker skin color. So for me, as my personal experience, I will say 95% positive in Taiwan and in mainland China, because I go in with an open mind, open heart. I'm trying to understand everybody that I come in contact with. But there are times where it gets hard because it's like, why are they staring at me again? Like, I go through this every day when I was living in Southwest China. Not so much here, not so much in Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou. Like, the bigger cities, they're more international and more foreigner, so they they're not going to